Step 12 is what we're working on this evening. Last week, Brad spoke about having had a spiritual awakening, so I thought this week maybe out of the 12 steps, the part that I would talk about is practicing these principles in all our affairs. So for those of you that are newcomers here, Step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry the message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. In the last number of weeks and months, actually, we have talked about spirituality. In October, I think I called it Entering the World of the Spirit. In November, it was spiritual maintenance. Last week, Brad again talked about spiritual awakening, and this week we're going to talk about practicing these principles in all our affairs. When I set about to kind of put this message together, I had to think to myself, really, what are these principles that we're talking about? Like many of you, we've heard all sorts of answers to that question, and upon doing a little bit of research and reading the big book, it makes it very clear that Bill W. was referring to the steps as being the principles. In the foreword to the 12 steps and the 12 traditions, he says, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous are a set of principles, spiritual in nature, which if practiced will expel the obsession to drink. We might refer to these principles as steps or as laws. We know that they have stood the test of time, as true today as they were when they were written by Bill W. He, at that time, stated that they came from a higher power. In quotations, they were created by something beyond man. They are as basic and unchanging as the law of gravity or the freezing point of water. They just don't change. They are as pertinent today as they were when they're written in 1935, 1936. Our 12 steps are designed for living. They are a set of principles or laws that tell us all how we should live. They work if we actually work them. Working the steps and practicing these principles or laws in all our affairs will set us free from the things that used to enslave us and make our lives miserable and unmanageable. Make no mistake, we do have self-will or free will, and we can do whatever it is that we want to. Or we can choose to live by a set of principles or rules that will change our lives. If we live by these principles, our lives will change, and the promises certainly will come true in our lives. When we work the steps and practice these principles in all our affairs, surprisingly enough, our lives change, and many of us have experienced that here. Now we're required to carry the message to others so that they, too, can change their lives and can experience the promises coming true in their lives. Our scripture this week is from Philippians 4, verse 9, and it was a letter to the, I wish I had trouble with this one, Philippians, by the Apostle Paul. He was speaking about spiritual growth and said, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me, you should put into action. Unlike material things which diminish if we give them away, our spirituality grows immensely as we give it away. The more we give and share, the more we grow in our spiritual life. And that's kind of the title of the message tonight. The more we give, the more we get. So let's take a look at each of the steps or the spiritual principles that were laid down. Step 1 in the spiritual principle is honesty. It is such an important and vital thing when we start our recovery journey to admit defeat over our struggles, over our alcoholism, over our drug addiction, or whatever our struggle might be. We must surrender and admit defeat, and by admitting powerlessness, we get the power to start our recovery. It's strange how that works, but it certainly does. Step 2 is hope. Again, an important step, and one that helped all of us as we first entered recovery. We must have a sense of hope for success, and seeing and hearing others that have conquered this disease gives us that hope. And in turn, we give hope to others by telling our stories. Step 3 is faith. The decision, I would say, to go on with the work required to do the rest of the steps. This is only a matter of being willing to believe through the process of working the 12 steps. Our believing turns into faith in time, and that process will work. Step 4 is courage. This step is all about courage, and it takes courage to do the fourth step. In fact, it takes so much courage that a lot of people stop working the steps just as they get to the fourth step or the fifth. That they don't have the courage to take a look at themselves, to take a look on the inward side to see what the real issues are. And we have to look at all our bad behavior and how our behavior, our lies, and dishonesty have affected all of those people around us, our families, our friends, our business associates, and many other people. We have to take an honest assessment of ourselves, and let me say, looking at causes and conditions that caused or contributed to our addiction is really scary at times, and courage certainly is needed. Step 5 is integrity. After doing a thorough examination of our assets and our liabilities, and if we have been rigorously honest about our past, we are ready to share this information with a trusted person and with the God of our understanding. This, too, is a very difficult step, and one that many people just don't do because of the shame and the guilt that they carry along with it, and the fear, I suppose, of sharing some of the things that we carry inside us. I can assure you that completing this step and doing it thoroughly can be one of the most healing and freeing experiences that you will ever experience. It, along with step 4, are the real beginning to our healing and understanding ourselves and our behaviors. Step 6 is willingness. Now that we have a list of our defects of character and a list of our good character traits, because I think we need to do both, I believe doing both is very important, because you know what, we don't always just have bad defects of character. We have some good character things as well. It's both sides of the equation. The point here is that we must be willing to work on them and change the bad to the good, make the good side bigger. This takes a bit of time, but as you have heard here many times, we must be willing to be willing to be willing to make those changes. Turn it over to your higher power and ask for help in removing these shortcomings or defects of character. Step 7 is humility. Step 7 calls for action. In step 5 and step 6, we determined what our shortcomings or defects were. We identified where we were selfish and self-centered. We practiced being humble by realizing we aren't the center of the universe. We aren't God. I'm not, you're not, but there is a God. Hopefully, we are far enough along to recognize that we are part of the whole that makes up this human universe. We must be humble enough to ask for help in forgiving ourselves. Step 8 is brotherly love. While making a list of those to whom we owe amends, it is time to enact the golden rule. It's important to treat others as we wish to be treated. We must also learn not to judge others, but accept them for who they are, not our vision of who they should be. Step 9 is discipline. As we continue, we are removing the barriers that can block forward sober growth. We are preparing to sweep our side of the street clean. We are becoming accountable while making amends to those that we have harmed. We practice new behaviors by facing our wrongs. To do this, we must have self-discipline. We try to correct our wrongs through actions as well as words, making living amends as well as direct amends. While doing this step, we stay close to our sponsor through each amends, and we stay focused and disciplined throughout the whole process. Step 10 is perseverance. We have entered the world of the Spirit. We talked about that back in October. We strive to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This takes practice and means we have to keep working at it. We are at the beginning of the road to a happy destiny, and this takes diligence and perseverance. Step 11 is spiritual awareness. This one suggests we continue to become aware of our higher power. We start to become aware of His presence in all aspects of our lives. We start to see and recognize His handiwork in our lives. Those things that we once thought were coincidences, if we really look at them and understand them, it's likely Him working in our life. We have to express gratitude for all He does. As we grow in our spirituality, so does the awareness of our higher power and all He does for all of us in our lives. And step 12 is service. As a result of working all the steps, and I emphasize working the steps, taking each one diligently and fully understanding them and doing the necessary work to allow you to move to the next step. Once we've done this, or during the process, we will have felt a growth in our spiritual being, sometimes called a spiritual awakening. In order to keep this moving along and to grow spiritually, we're called upon to give it away. So the more we get, the more we give away. Strange concept, but true. Spirituality grows in abundance the more we give it away. Remember what the scripture says, whatever you have learned, give it away. Basically sharing what you've learned from working our program, what you've learned in meetings, from your sponsor, from mentors, that has helped you become successful in recovery. Give it all away. Share it with everyone, and especially the newcomers. Give them a sense of hope. So how do we do that? We do it by taking part in meetings, actively taking part in meetings, not just warming the chair. Doing service work in the program and out, by setting a good example, by being that person that people look up to, the person that people want to like. Once you're ready, once you have worked your steps a few times and you feel confident, your sponsor feels confident, take on a sponsee. Take part in mission work. Take part in your church. Take part in reaching out to the less fortunate. Help the agencies that provide services for homeless or underprivileged people. Those that have mental disabilities. Carry the message into the hospitals, into prisons, and into institutions. The more we give it away, the more we receive, the stronger our spiritual selves become, the stronger your recovery becomes. Those are the principles that we live by. If we're diligent and work these principles into our lives and live them every day, we will enjoy all the promises and all the good that is promised to us. I challenge each of you to consciously apply these principles in all you do every day. Be a shining example to those around you. Give everyone a sense of hope. So that being said, that's kind of the message of Step 12. I want to just expand a bit on what Bill had to say and to say this is the last message for 2017. And I can't believe that we've been 12 months in 2017, but for the last 6 months, I can't believe we've gone by so quickly. I want to express my sincere appreciation for all your kind and continued support for this service. We all feel very blessed that this service has continued on and has actually grown each and every week. Your comments are always welcome and appreciated, and it's important to us to all remember that this is actually your service, not ours, and we try to deliver to you what you desire. Thank you for your support in the many functions that we have throughout the year, the pancake breakfasts and the errands journeys and everything, decorating the church, all the different things that we do. We couldn't do without the volunteers that step up. And you guys are awesome at that. Anytime we ask, you're there in multitudes. Your continued support financially is always appreciated. We know and understand the finances are tight for many of us, but every quarter, every loonie, every toonie, all adds up, and it's very much appreciated. I want to thank everyone that has agreed to speak on birthday nights, and all the great comments and encouragement that we got for doing that format. So thank you. We have a few folks lined up for the new year, but if you have a desire to share your story and to speak on birthday night, let us know. Talk to Brad or myself or Bill, and we'll get you slotted in on one of those evenings. I also want to take this opportunity on behalf of the Board of Elders, on behalf of Brad, Bill, Shannon, and Carrie, to wish you all, each and every one of you, a very, very merry and happy Christmas. Remember, next Sunday, Christmas Eve, there will be no service at 6. It will be at 8 o'clock. It will be a candlelit service. If you haven't experienced it, it's one that you need to come to. It's an awesome, awesome experience. I'd love to see you all here. Once again, thanks to all of you for making this service what it is, for your continued support. God bless. Merry Christmas. Now put the principles of Step 12 to work. Go out, let your light shine, and have a great week.